What I could do instead is put safeguards and monitor those weaknesses on a regular basis. Slowly improve them, but not make that my focus. But instead, as a business owner rather than an operator, I bring in people on my team who actually have strengths in the categories that I'm weak in. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Tim, The Powerful Man Matthews. That's never getting old for me. How you doing, brother?
I love it. Me neither.
So, Tim, today I want to talk about, should you focus on your strengths or should you focus on your weaknesses?
Okay. Where are you going with this?
So this question was posed to me where somebody said, hey, I know what I'm supposed to do. I know that I'm supposed to focus on my strengths and not my weaknesses. And basically, the premise, they were told by another talking head that's out there. And it's a very famous person who talks fast and loud and, very public persona. And their whole messaging, and I'm hearing this third person, of course, their whole messaging is, look, screw your weaknesses. Don't even worry about those. Ignore them and just focus on your strengths and hustle your butt off in that area. Just go after what you're strong in. Now, they're talking about business. And so this is a premise I totally disagree with. And that's the reason I wanted to bring it up for the guys, because I think this also has carryover into your personal life as well.
So true. Now, how's that working out for this guy?
Not working well. Not working well at all. We see this time and time again when you and I go in as a consultant into businesses, and we're looking in to see what's really happening behind the scenes, when we pull back the curtain. And so, first of all, if you're focusing on your weaknesses to build those up, it does go, in my experience, that does pay a price, because you really should put more emphasis on your strengths. However, you can't ignore your weaknesses. And this is where, as a business owner, we'll talk about the business side first, and we'll move into the personal side. As a business owner, I know I have a weakness, and Tim, you're probably going to disagree with this knowing me, but I have a weakness with the details, the details and following up and project management.
No.
Yeah, not me at all. I'm extreme on the visionary side. But if I have a weakness there, and if I ignore that, I'm going to drop clients. I'm going to have things slipping through the cracks left and right. What I could do instead is put safeguards and monitor those weaknesses on a regular basis. Slowly improve them, but not make that my focus. But instead, as a business owner rather than an operator, I bring in people on my team who actually have strengths in the categories that I'm weak in, right? So that's totally different than ignoring my weaknesses. You ignore your weaknesses in business, you're going to get pummeled. You're going to lose every time. Now, you may be lucky for a little bit, but eventually someone's going to come in and be able to plug those holes that you're missing. Now, the same could be said for Tim in the personal life. If you have a weakness, let's just say in an area of your health, right? That's not something to ignore. It's also something you don't necessarily have to double down on, but you can bring in other people to help you with those optics. You still have to be aware and do diagnostics and everything else to know where you stand within your health. Do you find this to be true with the guys?
I'm just kind of reflecting on it. What for me, so if I apply that statement to myself, focus on my strengths and not my weaknesses. I agree with you. You cannot ignore your weaknesses. Because that's where, I bet that a lot of business owners listening to this, I could be wrong, but they don't really know what the strengths and weaknesses are. Because most of the men that we speak to, if we were to ask them this question, they would have an idea as to some of their strengths, but I don't think they'd be really grounded and convicted in the difference between their strengths and their weaknesses. And that's often because they have just got their head down and just gone for it. And then just hired people as and when they've needed them, not necessarily to balance out their weaknesses, which then ends up with these guys doing things in their life out of obligation rather than sticking to their lane. And when they start to do things out of obligation in their business, this then starts to bleed into other areas of their life as well. And they then start to say yes to things that are really a no. People pleasing, going to certain events or meeting up with certain people, or just there's a whole host of things there that they say yes to that are really a no. And they do them out of obligation. It robs them of joy in their life. And then equally on the flip side, they end up saying no to things that are really a yes, because they've got so used to operating out of obligation that they've just lost touch with knowing who they are and what it is they want. Now, for me, as I consider this, double down on my strengths and ignore, that's a big statement, ignore my weaknesses. I definitely agree with doubling down on my strengths in a way of operating from inspiration. I'm very big on trusting your gut instinct. I'm very big on living a life of flow. And what I mean by that is believing that you have been pulled by pleasure instead of being pushed by pain. You can create your company or your life out of force and out of hustle and out of grind, and the energy behind it means that you're never satisfied with it because you're always wanting the next thing. You're always wanting more. Or you can create your life out of being pulled by pleasure, which is a completely different mindset. It's a completely different space in which you operate in. And in doing so, you're very clear on what's a yes and what's a no. And usually what's a yes is going to fall into what your strengths are. And then what's a no is going to be the things that are your weaknesses. And you find yourself forcing things and procrastinating on things. But at that point, I still wouldn't ignore them, just like you're saying. I would either reach out to you and say, hey, Doug, take this off my plate. Then you'd probably say no. Or I would.
True.
No, Tim, it's the details. Or we'd have a conversation, wouldn't we? And look at, how do we fix this? But in the area of relationships, imagine if you ignored your weaknesses there. Your inability to communicate. So many men tell me that, they love their wife and they love their partner, but they just shut down. They just close down emotionally and struggle to open up and communicate and say the things they really want to say. And as a result, their needs are not being met. And that's when they start to look at porn and look at other women and act out of character, do things they really don't want to do. But the weakness there is in their ability to really open up and express themselves. If they ignore that, all that happens is a relationship either breaks down and they move on to the next woman and repeat the same cycle, or they just end up settling and live a life of unfulfillment. So, yes, follow your path and follow your joy, which is what we talk about a lot in The Powerful Man. Follow your joy, and with it, you're going to live a great life. And at the same time, be aware of areas you either get to grow in that are really going to help improve your life, or areas that you get to let go of and have other people doing those things for you.
Yeah, it's so true. And you hear this whole idea, and it goes right in alignment, with the same person that said this. Tim was also saying, hustle, go to bed, wake up at 2 a.m. type thing. It's one of these, and I kind of make fun of it, but it's like go to bed at midnight, wake up at 2 and get back to work. You only need to take a nap. And I think they get on these dogmas, and unfortunately people pick them up because they're so extreme that they become popularized. And for the men listening to this, we've said this episode after episode, but you got to get diagnostics around yourself first. Get some practical knowledge of where you are. And one way you can do this, if you don't know what your strengths and weaknesses are ask people close to you, right? Obviously you have things like Strength Finders 2.0, and you have all these other tests that you can take. Wealth Dynamics has one. But you can also ask the people that are around you. Ask your coworkers, ask your employees, ask your friends, hey, be honest. What are my strengths and weaknesses? And you have to create a space where they can be honest with you. If you're the kind of person who's always abrasive, they're not going to be honest with you because they don't trust you. So you have to create that space of trust and find out what are your true strengths and what are your weaknesses. And as you said, Tim, oftentimes the men are going to be very surprised. And hopefully you're pleasantly surprised that people see all the amazing strengths you have. But don't hide from those weaknesses. Don't focus on just those weaknesses either, but make a balance there where you can actually have your weaknesses be covered while you are working in your strengths. When you're working in your strengths, you're really working in an area of flow. And that area of flow is going to allow you to do things so much more effortlessly than you have been before. Right? When you're doing something you enjoy, time flies. You know, the whole thing, time flies when you're having fun. Well, part of having fun is working in your strengths. And if you're always focused on your weaknesses, of course, that's not going to be fun. By the same token, if you're just doing your strengths and you're ignoring your weaknesses, you're going to be destroyed in all the other areas of your relationship. So having those diagnostics, looking at the 5 territories on a regular basis, we use the COIL within the Powerful Man. It's a system to self-track and monitor yourself, but have a powerful diagnostic tool that you can use on a daily, if not definitely a weekly basis, to make sure you're on track and make sure that, you know, if they are your weaknesses, that they're not going to be completely ignored and left to the side. Hey guys, it's time to get real. Do you feel bored, burnt out, or broken? Discover the system that over 300 businessmen are using to let go of the grind, find inner peace, and unlock near unlimited personal power so they can have more time, more intimacy, and better sex while living a life they love without stressing about work or feeling like a fraud. Go over to thepowerfulman.com/freedom right now and discover the insights that you need to get started. All right, let's get back to the episode.
And I think a point, as you were speaking then, that came to mind for me was, you know, so often I'll use myself, you know, many years ago when I was first getting into business, because of what I always got told and the messages I heard around me, I really expected the journey in business to be a hard one. And, you know, when I was then able to persevere with that and push through it, I then used to get a lot of satisfaction and significance from that. And I can remember working, 15, 16, 17 hours a day, getting in bed at night and just laying there with my hands behind my head, feeling so smug because I'd done it. You know, I'd pushed through. And that was a marker of, you know, being in business and being successful. And all I had to do was keep on doing that. And then one day I was going to arrive. And, you know, although I then was making money, it just, you know, it never satisfied me. Yet the point I'm making here is, you know, if you believe that, you know, success, business, life is supposed to be hard, then you're going to seek out the path of most resistance, and you're more than likely going to be telling yourself that you've got to do things you don't want to do, i.e., you've got to do those things that are in the area of your weakness. Because when you do focus on your strength, like you were saying, Doug, life really opens up for you. And this is where you really start experiencing the 5 freedoms, because you stop operating out of obligation and you start operating out of your power, really knowing who it is you are and what it is you want. And that's a completely different version of what it means to be successful, because that life is very easy in the sense that because you are doing the things that you love to do, it just feels effortless. Sure, there's times when it's a little bit stressful, of course. You're still going to experience that. But for the most part, for as much as you give, you get as much back. And in order to really focus on your strengths, I think a key thing is questioning that vision that you have in your own mind of what it means to be a businessman, to create the success, what that journey looks like in your head. Is it one of hustle and grind and force and obligation? Or is it one of ease and opportunity and enjoyment and fulfillment?
And that's really a feeling, right, that you can have on a regular basis.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, you know, a few episodes ago, we spoke about what it takes to become a powerful man, and the territories as well, having self as the first one. In order for you to get to that point, basically at that point, you're experiencing the 5 freedoms. And in order to get to that point, you've got to go through the 3 shifts. Now, I've done a lot of work, and so have you, Doug. Between us and between the rest of our leadership team, I imagine we've invested, millions into our own development and decades of time as well, and effort and energy. And the thing that has attracted the leadership team, yourself and other people, to this movement is the effectiveness of what we teach. And I think one of the reasons why it's so effective is because we've been able to recognize a systematic way to move men from the void and the 5 agonies into the 5 freedoms. And every time we see this result happen time and time and time again. In total transparency, I have voxed you a couple of weeks ago saying I've kind of lost. Back then I did. I didn't realize it at the time. This was one of the, when I was in the agonies, I was like, I'd lost gratitude for the results we were getting the men, because it was just so second nature. It was just the norm to achieve these phenomenal results. And I've lost perspective, only momentarily. But point being is methodical. It's a science. Men go through the process, follow the shifts, and then make it to the other side. Obviously, there's work to be done, and it's not like you just do it once and then, hey, presto, that's it. You never need to do it again. Of course, you get your reps in. But the thing is, you get your reps in with a completely different training program, with a completely different training partner, with a completely different trainer in a better gym with better equipment. So it's just easier. It's more enjoyable, and you see results faster. But it's totally possible as well. It's totally available to you.
Yeah, you just got to take action, right? At any point in time, you have to make a decision whether you're going to step over the line and take action, or step to the line, as we say, and take action, or if you're going to sit behind and just keep listening to podcasts, keep putting audiobooks in your car and not actually doing any of the applications, which, I've been there before, where you're kind of, I call it educational masturbation, where you just constantly are digesting content, but you're not actually doing anything with it. You're not actually taking the massive action that's required to put you in a space to get what you want out of life. You're not actually doing that. And that's where you get to really honor your strengths, but also take action in the areas of making that leap. Maybe you've got 2 jobs. Maybe this is time to leave. If it's not now, when, right? If it's not now, when? When are you going to take action? When are you actually going to get the tools to unlock the powerful man that's inside of you? That's really the question. So Tim, do you have any practical exercises? We gave the guys 1, right? Reach out to at least 5 people, personal and business. Find out what your strengths and weaknesses are. What else can you think that these guys can do right now in this moment of decision and clarity to take action a little bit more?
Wow. So I would really have you consider, what are you doing right now? Where in your life would be a better way for me to phrase this? Are you acting out of obligation? Where are you either doing things in your business, or doing things in your relationship, or not doing things? And it's out of obligation. You are doing things that you don't really want to do. Because that's what that is going to do, is start to identify a pattern for you of where you are really holding back from giving yourself the permission. That's all it is, really. Giving yourself permission to be, to do, and to have what it is you want. Because until you actually, become aware of that and break the cycle, you're going to keep repeating it. There's a quote by Einstein that I love, and it's that a problem cannot be solved at the same level of thinking that created it. So if you keep on doing what you're already doing and expecting a different result, it's just not going to happen, is it? It's the definition of insanity. So take inventory on where you're acting out of obligation. Maybe it is that you were just holding back from taking that leap and really investing in yourself, or reaching out for help, or you're feeling like you want to do it, but for whatever reason, you're just not. Maybe that you don't want to look weak, or it means that you're a failure, you've not been able to do it on your own, or whatever it is. Maybe it's something completely different. You're wanting to have a conversation with your wife about your sex life and how you want things to change. And on a side note, if that's the conversation you want to have, please make sure you reach out to us first in the community. Don't just go there and do it like that. So yeah, take inventory and start to knock some of these, start through the opposition, start to knock some of these off, and actually do and have what it is you truly want.
That's great advice. Guys, this is time for you to get some freedom and some clarity in your life. If you haven't already, go over to thepowerfulman.com/freedom. Look at how other guys just like you have already made the change. And like Tim said, go to the Facebook community. Do not be somebody who hides in the shadows. Step forward and be a beacon for other men to see. Ask questions. That's what we're here for. All right, guys, that's it for us for today. We'll see you next time on another episode of The Powerful Man Show.